Live from Edmonton, CTV News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Welcome to a special municipal election edition of CTV News. I'm Brendan Purdy, joined tonight by our political analyst, John Brennan, who we'll be checking in with throughout this evening. But first, to the results. The polls have been closed and the ballot count is underway, and here's what we can tell you thus far. Andrew Knack currently leading in the mayoral race here in Edmonton at last check. 4 of 236 polls reporting roughly about 2%, and he's leading with 656 votes, a narrow race over Tim Cartmell. And as we start looking at Ward Innernuck, Aaron Rutherford leading in that race. And as we start to break down some of those numbers, again, about 5% of those polls recording, and it's a very narrow lead, just a 46 vote lead. When we go to Ward Dene, Aaron Paquette leading there, the incumbent. And when we get a closer look at those numbers, about 5% of polls recording and just a narrow 80 vote lead. Another incumbent, this in Ward Métis, Ashley Salvador. And as we begin again to have a peek at those numbers, very limited polls recording early in, or I shouldn't say early in the evening, just a narrow 24 vote lead. Michael Jans leading in Ward Papasteo. And we will get those numbers momentarily. 5% of polls recording. However, a larger lead with 172. Giselle General, as we look at Ward Sipawinawak, seeing where that lead stands right now. Again, a narrow lead, 44 votes roughly, with 4% of votes. In Tassawiniwak, it is incumbent Karen Principe currently ahead. 9% of polls recording in that riding, or in that ward rather, and over 1,000 vote lead this evening. Now, the City of Edmonton says results will be published as they roll in throughout the night. The hand count means we could be waiting some time before we know who the next mayor of our city is or who will be representing our wards. CTV's Gates Guarin is in studio tonight to talk about the ballot counting process. And Gates, we were warned that results would come in slow, and they are.
Yeah, Brendan, in previous years, we would have some results pretty soon after the polls closed and would be able to declare the mayor not long after. This year is a different story, and waiting has been the theme of the whole day. The lines at polling stations were long on Election Day, forcing some to try their luck later on.
Well, we didn't get to vote. I have to go to work, so we had to leave because we got here and registered or filled out the form. A long lineup ahead of us, and it looked like it was taking 5 minutes-ish per person, so we did some math and figured out we'd have to come back later.
The province changed some of the rules for local elections last year, including prohibiting the use of electronic tabulators.
Leger released a poll in June where they said 36% of Albertans don't trust electronic counted ballots.
Everyone was required to fill out a statement of eligibility form at their polling station. That change added to the slowdown, with some people waiting more than 2 hours to vote.
You don't get the day off for voting, do you? So I'm just saying the people who can make it here are making it here, but like I say, waited a long time.
The city says it had been dealing with internet issues early on in the day. Standby workers were also deployed because of staffing shortages. The problems continued when a power outage at one polling station sent voters to a different one nearby. Too late for some wanting to vote.
I just think something for the city council to look at, or like the city people to look at for the next election, because there are votes that go down, right? Like how we can get those people through the door, because there's some that can't come back, like my daughter won't come back to vote.
The city says unofficial results will be posted by noon tomorrow, with official results posted by Friday. Now, there's also more than 41,000 advance votes to be tallied. The city says counting will go on until 1 a.m. and will pick back up at 9 tomorrow morning. Brendan?
Thank you for that, Gates. Our Gates Guarin live in studio for us this evening. Now, CTV News reached out to the Minister of Municipal Affairs for a response to the complaints of long wait times at the polls. In a statement, Dan Williams said municipalities have known about the new election rules and regulations since the spring of 2024, giving them ample time to prepare and make a plan so Election Day runs smoothly. Voter attestation forms are like a normal part of an election process and should not delay a properly staffed voting location. If a municipality's election authority was unable to come up with an effective plan, it's up to the local authority to explain to voters and candidates why long waits have developed. The Edmonton Chamber of Commerce held the first mayoral debates of the municipal election. The chamber selected who it perceived as the candidates with a realistic chance of winning the chair. They include city councillors Tim Cartmell and Andrew Knack, former city councillor Michael Walters, former member of parliament for Edmonton Rahim Jaffer, and political newcomer and dental surgeon Omar Mohammed. Andrew Knack was first elected to City Council in 2013. He's hoping to return to the council chambers as mayor. Our Jeremy Thompson is at Knack's watch party tonight on White Avenue. Jeremy?
Well, Brendan, some good energy here for Knack supporters at Epic Market, just off White Ave and Gateway Boulevard here. We've slowly been seeing some early results trickle in as you've just sort of gone over. So a few cheers have gone up as those early results start to come in. Quite a few happy people here, especially if those results continue trending in favor of Andrew Knack. You're one of those happy people hoping that trend continues is one of his campaign volunteers, Kelly Ware. Kelly, maybe just talk to me a bit about how the evening's going. It's taken a while to start seeing numbers come in.
Yeah, it's been taking a bit, but we're liking the numbers so far, and we're just really hoping it continues with this trend. This is what we were kind of expecting, so yeah.
And so, tell me a little bit about why you wanted to volunteer with the Knack campaign. You could have chosen any one of the 13 candidates for mayor. What about Andrew Knack is good for Edmonton in your mind?
So for me, it's his authenticity, kindness, the fact that he is fact and evidence-driven and community-driven. He's just the exact type of person that I want in politics. So it was a no-brainer for me.
He kind of has a reputation for sort of hearing people out almost to a fault, right? Even if people are sort of angry at him, he'll respond, right? Tell me a bit about what you see in him that way.
I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think one of the biggest problems in our politics right now is we're not talking to each other, that we're too divided. So having someone that, even if you're in a place that disagrees, and even if they're angry, trying to reach out to their humanity and their concerns is important.
All right, well, we got some early results here, and we'll see how the rest of them start coming in. Brendan, we'll throw it back to you there in studio.
All right, thanks for that, Jeremy. That's CTV's Jeremy Thompson live tonight from Andrew Knack's election party on White Ave. Now, Tim Cartmell is the other sitting city councillor running for mayor and the only one running under a party. Connor Hogg is in the Ice District tonight where Cartmell and the council candidates under the Better Edmonton slate are. Connor, how's the night going down there?
Well, Brendan, it's been a slow but steady night down here at the Ice District JW Marriott, but moments ago, the man of the night himself, Tim Cartmell, did arrive. He's currently visiting with all the guests who are here, and it's certainly energized the room. Now, for much of the early part of the evening, much of the excitement here was for the Blue Jays game that was playing because there just was no results coming in yet. But as the results have slowly started to trickle in, the energy has become more focused. Joining me now is Alex Haritsu. She is the campaign manager for Tim Cartmell and Better Edmonton. Alex, what is it like to have to wait this long to get some results?
It's stressful. It's stressful for everybody. It's stressful for our candidates. It's stressful for Tim, obviously, our team. But I know we really appreciate all the election workers that have shown up to work this, count all the ballots, and so we're really appreciative of their time, and I know they're getting through it as fast as they can.
Of course. You've been doing a lot of door knocking over the past weeks. You've been talking to a lot of Edmontonians. What are you hearing from them?
We're hearing Edmontonians just don't feel listened to. They feel as though City Council has kind of overridden their concerns. We're on the brink of an affordability crisis. We're having massive issues attracting businesses here. We're seeing more and more of that safe communities and safe streets being eroded. And I think Edmontonians, said to us at the very least, we really need to prioritize our safety. We really need to prioritize our investment ability. We need to bring jobs back to the city. We need to see businesses prosper and grow here. And so that was a really big focus of our campaign, and putting people back at the center of our policies, when it comes to infill and bike lanes and the bag tax, all the little things that really impact everyone's day-to-day lives. Better Edmonton was really here to try and tackle and fix a lot of those issues.
Well, is the message that Better Edmonton is sending out, being received?
I think so. I mean, it's really still super early. The polls are kind of rolling in at a very slow pace, and so hard to make a call either way tonight. We still have a lot of polls to come in for Tim, and we're looking forward to seeing those numbers come in.
Yeah, as Alex mentioned, the polls are it's still too close to call, and there's not enough information. Thank you very much, Alex. That's Alex Haritsu, the campaign manager for Tim Cartmell and the Better Edmonton campaign. Like everyone else down here at tonight's party, we will be watching those results as they very slowly come in. Brendan?
Thanks for that, Connor. That's CTV's Connor Hogg live from Tim Cartmell's election night event in the Ice District. Another former city councillor is also taking a run at the mayor's seat. Michael Walters cast his ballot this afternoon. Walters says he's proud of his campaign and what his team has accomplished.
Glad that it's over. Anxious about the results. Hopeful, but grateful that we, put together a great campaign in 3 months. Talked to tens of thousands of people. Wide recognition that our platform was the most comprehensive, the most relevant, the most innovative thing that Edmonton needs right now. So let's hope the voters agree.
Former Edmonton Conservative MP Raheem Jaffer also casting his ballot this morning. He's also feeling optimistic going into tonight's vote.
There still were a lot of people who were sizing up, the choices, honing in on what's important for them. And the theme I heard throughout the whole campaign was change. I think people...
All right, time now to get some more updates on those results. There's the mayoral race. Andrew Knack with a 207 vote lead through about 3% of polls reporting. And now we're getting down a little bit farther. Michael Walters sitting with roughly about 350 votes. In the early stages of these results, slowly trickling in tonight, folks, with that hand-counted vote here on election night. As we start to get some looks now in Paheswin. Now, that is Tim Cartmell's old riding. It looks Jackie Liu currently with the lead. We're going to get the numbers now, about 5% of polls reporting. And again, a narrow lead, just 107 votes. But again, that is only 5% of polls reporting thus far. Well, you're watching the special coverage of the 2025 municipal election here on CTV Edmonton. Our continued analysis and result breakdown will continue right after this short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to our special municipal election coverage on CTV News. These are the latest results that have rolled in, and we're going to have a peek now. Andrew Knack, the current leader here in Edmonton in the mayoral race tonight, but results slowly trickling in the numbers. Well, those numbers are going to change throughout the evening. 3% of polls still showing he's got about a 207 vote lead over Tim Cartmell. And as we can see, the rest of those in the running for mayor, Michael Walters sitting right around that 350 mark. Raheem Jaffer just under 200 votes so far. Again, just about 3% rolling. Now, the provincial government introduced a party system to municipal elections this year in Calgary and Edmonton only. In Edmonton, there were 2 parties and 1 slate that registered in the first half of the year. YEG first canceled its slate in September, leaving the Principled Accountable Coalition for Edmonton and Tim Cartmell's Better Edmonton party. PACE is running 9 council candidates. Better Edmonton is running in all wards. Karen Principe is the only incumbent councillor running under a party. We're joined this evening by our political analyst, John Brennan. John, it's been a long night as we've slowly, and may I say patiently, awaited these hand-counted results to roll in. And so far, the story, kind of what we heard leading into election night, was this looked like it was going to be a 2-horse race. Very minimal results so far, but how is this looking? Was this kind of what you were expecting to see tonight?
That's what I was expecting, Brendan. The polling showed us going in that it was going to be a 2-horse race between Andrew Knack and Tim Cartmell. I expect all evening as the results come in that it's going to be a very close race between the 2 front runners. I've viewed this mayor's race right from the beginning, Brendan, as being very much a race about continuity versus change. Very much Tim Cartmell was running as the candidate of change, And Andrew Knack was running as the candidate of continuity, very much following in the agenda of Amarjeet Sohi, and before that, Don Iveson, a progressive center-left agenda. Whereas Tim Cartmell was running on It's Time for Change at City Hall, and he was running more on a small c conservative, time for a change agenda. And so, very much it's running as we expected, and the other candidates are, far back.
And so what do you believe it would take to see maybe a switch here? I know that we talked earlier this evening before we started rolling that Tim Cartmell made kind of a push this past weekend. What would you need to see those numbers maybe sway back the other way?
Well, this weekend we saw Cartmell's campaign change their strategy a little bit and start to focus on the strategic voting argument. They were making their argument to voters who were looking to support either Michael Walters or Omar Mohammed, Raheem Jaffer, or Tony Caterina, that look, we are all running on a variation of It's Time for a Change at City Hall. Don't waste your vote on one of those candidates because they can't win. Only I can win, only I can defeat Andrew Knack. My sense is, Brendan, he probably should have started that argument a little sooner. He left it right to the last minute. If he was going to make the strategic voting argument, he should have made it sooner. But that was his closing argument. That look, this is and he literally released a video a couple of days before the election. He said, "Look, this is a race between me and Andrew Knack. If you want change at City Hall, I'm your guy. Don't split the vote."
Now, really quickly here, do you believe that we are going to see the party system play a factor? We can see that Cartmell currently in second. Do you believe that the party system will have an inevitable outcome in tonight's election results?
So far the political parties haven't had much impact on this campaign. It's really focused more on the candidates. And Brendan, as we've seen from the early results, it looks like all the incumbents are doing quite well. Like, I don't see any of the Better Edmonton Party candidates or any of the PACE candidates doing that well tonight. From the results we've seen so far this evening, it's been the incumbent councillors who are in the lead, and the Better Edmonton Party candidate, Tim Cartmell, is trailing the independent Andrew Knack. So far, the municipal political parties in Edmonton haven't had that much impact.
Well, John, thank you very much for your insight, and we'll check in with you again later on tonight. Now for some more results. And Calgary Mayor's Jeremy Fark is currently in the lead. And as we can look at some of these results, they did prioritize the mayor's numbers first tonight. And as we look at incumbent Jody Gondik currently in third place, it's Farkas with a just about 1,100 vote lead. Rod Frank is in the lead, Strathcona County Mayor, and 39% of the polls reporting in Strathcona County this evening. Lars Hansen is leading as Leduc Mayor, and we will get a look at those numbers. Over half of those polls have reported. Lisa Macon, as was earlier, still leading in Fort Saskatchewan. Over half of those polls reporting, and her lead is about 1,350 votes. You're watching CTV Edmonton's coverage of the 2025 municipal election. We'll have more for you right after this commercial break.
Programming brought to you by James H. Brown Injury Lawyers, the heavy hitters of injury law.
Welcome back. Pretty close to average today, 3 degrees this morning, lots of wind through the morning. Tomorrow morning should be calmer, but the afternoon hours could get a little gusty. 10 degrees for a daytime high today. It was 10 on Sunday, 10 today. We're back into the 13, maybe 14 degree range for tomorrow, though. You've got this low pressure system making its way across northern Alberta. That produced late this afternoon, early this evening, some showers in the northwest. It'll produce some showers, maybe mixed in with a little bit of wet snow there in the Fort McMurray region here through the overnight period. Slight chance of a scattered shower around the Edmonton area, south towards Red Deer off to the southeast. No significant rain, but there are a couple areas that might see some wet ground tomorrow morning. And then mainly sunny to partly cloudy skies through the bulk of the day tomorrow, and sunny with a few clouds on Wednesday, and even warmer Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 2 degrees in Fort McMurray tomorrow morning. Should be around 4 in Grand Prairie, a degree or 2 above 0 in Red Deer, and about 2 or 3 degrees for a morning low here in the city. 12s in the Peace Country, cooler and high level though at 5 degrees. After a 5-degree day in Fort McMurray today, you're up close to 10 tomorrow. Should be around 12 for Lac La Biche, Cold Lake, Bonnyville, somewhere in that 12-degree range as well in Lloydminster and Coronation, and 14 with some sunshine in Red Deer. Here in Edmonton, 13 degrees, 15 Wednesday, 16 and 17 in the forecast for Thursday, Friday. And then as we hit the weekend, temperatures will slip a little bit, not cold, but back into the 10 to 12 degree range. And it looks like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, not only in single digits, but probably a little closer to 5 than 10. That is no worse than average, though, as the daytime high drops to about 5 degrees by the end of October. In the short term, trending well above average for the next 4 days. That is your forecast.
We are heading back now to Andrew Knack's headquarters at this hour. We're watching results come in rather slowly tonight. Our Jeremy Thompson is there at Epic Market with an enthusiastic volunteer. Jeremy.
Yeah, Brendan, of course, results continue to come in here, and they continue to have Knack out in front. They continue to get big cheers whenever a new poll reports. There was also a big cheer when former Mayor Don Iveson walked into the room. We know he supports Andrew Knack as well, as does this man, Chris Smith. Chris, not only are you a volunteer with Andrew Knack's campaign, you're also a personal friend of his. What sort of qualities does he have, as a friend that translate, you think, to becoming a good mayor?
For sure. I mean, he's always been a stand-up guy, like you look for in most friends. He has a lot of integrity. He always follows through with what he says he's going to do. So it's hard to find friends like that, and we've known each other for over a decade, so it's stuck.
And is there maybe one major policy that you're especially proud of being part of this campaign?
I wouldn't say any one in particular. I mean, he represents what people want, and I feel like that's what's kind of resonating in the polls right now, and it's great to see.
And as you experience this election in slow motion here tonight, how are you feeling? It is early. There's only, 4 polls reporting, only 4 or 5, and he's still in the lead, though. How are you feeling?
I mean, I'm nervous, optimistic, and I'm having fun like everyone else here. It's been a great time.
Might be a long night for you here. All right. Well, just all smiles here at the moment at Andrew Knack HQ here. We'll throw it back to you, Brendan, in the studio.
Thank you for that, Jeremy. CTV's Jeremy Thompson live on location at Andrew Knack's election party. On the other side, breaths are being held across our city in the atmosphere at Tim Cartmell's Better Edmonton party. Well, it's no different. CTV's Connor Hogg is at that Better Edmonton watch party in Ice District. Connor, how are the candidates coping with these ever slow-moving results?
Well, Brendan, I will say now that results are starting to come in, it is starting to feel more like a traditional election night. And joining me here is Nicholas Rubottom. He is the Better Edmonton candidate for Ward Ipikoka-Nipiotsia. And Nicholas, this election has been unlike a lot of other ones that we've had recently for a variety of reasons. The most recent being that, we still know very little about, who's actually on top of the results right now. Can you tell me what that's like as a candidate?
It's absolutely unreal. Like, I know our ward plus Ward Pahesawin, for example, we haven't heard any information whatsoever. I heard from my husband, who's actually a scrutineer right now, that a lot of the voting stations in the ward, they're just getting on to the counting now. Before 8 o'clock, there were literally 100 to 150 people at the voting station waiting to vote, which is super exciting, of course. So it's nerve-wracking for me, though, of course.
Well, naturally, there's a lot on the line for you right now. What has it been like to run for the Better Edmonton Party over these last couple of months?
I think it's been quite rewarding. As somebody that's worked with City of Edmonton on a variety of different municipal initiatives, the one thing I've really struggled with over the past 4 years is I have felt that the City Council has had a difficult time coming to a consensus on issues. What for me was important was running with Better Edmonton so that we could come to a better consensus on issues. Property taxes, safety on the streets, better construction. These were important things that we're hearing from Edmontonians that they care about. And it was great to meet 12 other people that really cared about it too. So for me, it was about building a team and building that together and acting on day one. And I think we're going to be able to do that.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how things turn out. Obviously, we don't know yet, but we will see what the results say. Thank you, Nicholas. That's Nicholas Rubottom from the Better Edmonton Party. And the wait for those numbers continues down in Ice District. I'll send it back to you. Brendan?
Thanks for that, Connor. CTV's Connor Hogg live for us tonight at Tim Cartmell's watch party. And let's check in with some leading Edmonton councillors in Nurnik. Aaron Rutherford with the lead. Aaron Paquette in Denny and Ashley Salvador in Métis. What do they all have in common? Well, of course, they are all incumbents. Michael Jans, he's leading in Papasteo in Paheswin. It's Jackie Leo and Giselle General in Sipiwiniak. Then Karen Principe in Tastawiniwak, currently leading another incumbent. And the only incumbent or rep that is running under the party now, John Brennan was telling us earlier about the party factor in tonight's race. Here's a ward breakdown of where some of the leading candidates are. And notice only one ward where a party candidate is in the lead, as I just mentioned. That's Karen Principe in Tastawiniwak, where she's also the incumbent running under the Better Edmonton banner. Now, turning back to Edmonton, we're joined again in studio by political analyst John Brennan. Now, some of the issues that came up during the campaign in the last couple of weeks, Mayor Stephen Mando was talking about Edmonton being in that downward spiral, specifically how downtown is concerned. Interesting point. Do you think that anybody jumped on that bandwagon and kind of characterized and singled themselves out in that way to stand ahead of the pack?
I think Tim Cartmell tried to, but I think the problem that he's had is that there was other candidates running for mayor who were also making the same pitch or a variation of the same pitch. And I think what we're seeing here tonight, Brendan, is that the incumbents are getting reelected, and including Karen Principe, who is also an incumbent. But in the mayoralty race, you know, really it was Tim Cartmell who was running on a campaign of It's Time for a Change, running against Andrew Knack, who was, things aren't that bad. You know, it's a time for continuity. And, you know, even though Cartmell was making that argument, the problem is he had 3 or 4 other guys who are also making the same argument. Michael Walters, Omar Mohammed, Rahim Jaffer, Tony Caterina. So you had 4 or 5 candidates on the center-right, all making this argument that it's a time for a change at City Hall. And I think that's actually the majority view in Edmonton. But Andrew Knack is benefiting from the fact that he's the only progressive center-left candidate running for mayor. And so he's getting all the votes from the center-left part of the spectrum, and the conservative center-right vote is all split. And so that's what the advantage is right now for Andrew Knack. And I expect, you know, as the evening goes on, Brendan, it's going to continue to be a very tight race between Andrew Knack and Tim Cartmell.
Before we let you go tonight, GB, I've got to ask just about, we've seen in past elections provincially and municipally over the last couple of years that incumbents kind of saw that exodus, and we're really not seeing that trend so far in Edmonton tonight. What is allowing the incumbents kind of buck that trend here in Edmonton?
All I can think to explain it, Brendan, is vote splitting. You know, it's always an advantage for an incumbent running for city council, running for re-election, because you have the name recognition and you've shown you can win an election because you got elected the last time. And in Aaron Paquette's case, he's won 2 elections. So you have the advantage of incumbency. You've been elected before. You've got the name recognition. And so that is all an advantage for all the incumbents. And we see all the incumbents are leading tonight. And they're up against, in all the different wards, 4 or 5, 6 candidates who are running against them on some variation of It's Time for a Change. But that vote is all being split. And so you're seeing the incumbents win. And my guess is when we get the final results.
And here we're going to see some of these results. Sorry to cut you off,
fine.
John. We are just about out of time. But again, thank you for everything tonight. Andrew Knack still in the lead, 5% of polls showing. Michael Walters has now eclipsed that 1,000 vote mark. Rahim Jaffer just about nearing 500, but again, just 5% of those polls showing, as we can see the rest of our candidates rounding out. Folks, that is just about all from us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for this special municipal election edition of CTV Edmonton. A special thanks to our political analyst, John Brennan, for his insight tonight. Thank you. Your Morning Edmonton will have all the news that happened overnight. They're on at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Until then, take care and bye for now.